Now, some of you may know Kyle as Justin Trudeau's half brother, but that's not why I want to talk to Kyle. I want to talk to Kyle because he has written, I guess, a booklet about decentralized autonomous systems and direct democracy. And I think there has never been a more opportune time to talk about this. And I think society is open to decentralizing. And as an Albertan, this has been the drum I've been banging for a long time. The centralized Canadian government system has never been good for us out here in Alberta. And Kyle, I think you tell me you were sort of inspired by the convoy and the government's reaction to the convoy to sort of put your thoughts to paper.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show, Sheila. Yeah, I mean the Great Canadian Freedom Convoy, as I like to call it, was just such an unbelievable, inspiring showcase of love and unity and inclusion and self-expression mixed with this idea of civic engagement. People were participating because they really felt like, they had to do something, they had to stand up. And, it was entirely nonviolent and so beautiful. And, while the images from the conclusion of it, will kind of last in everybody's memories, the 17 days that took place in Ottawa of this kind of incredible experience, I think is something that everyone can return as heroes from that, and tell the tales of what actually happened there, because, your organization was one of the only ones to actually showcase what was happening as opposed to just these radical smears. But out of all of it, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people through Ottawa over 17 days, and they couldn't even get an audience. Like, with policymakers, you had doctors, nurses, scientists coming together, making the case, saying, look, let's have an audience. And, that type of energy, and like, it was not a fringe minority. It was people from all different backgrounds,
Yeah.
and people coming out like to support those who couldn't be there. And we've seen rallies all across the country too, but no engagement. And we just saw Randy Hillier declare that he's not seeking re-election and is not. And he made a very clear statement that the political system is broken. Like, it has become a system where the parties vote for themselves. They vote for the parties and they vote for the party interests. They do not represent the people. And when we look at our kind of system of governance, this Westminster kind of British, system, it was it made sense when there was Canada as a super large nation, when we had people all over and we didn't have telephones or even electricity, and you needed people to come together to kind of represent their various regions. That makes sense. But the thing about centralized systems over time is they just become more secretive and corrupt. And I think we're at the pinnacle of that right now. And we are in the age of the internet and exponential technologies, and we have decentralized currencies and ledgers that present amazing opportunities for innovation. And yet we're using this Westminster system of governance, which is like using Morse code in the time of the internet. It's broken. And so, I posit that, it's time for us to start looking at new models of doing things. And, one of my favorite quotes is from Buckminster Fuller, and it says, you can't fix the system by fighting it. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing system obsolete. So I suggest that is the point that we're at right now. And, by the actions of Justin and his people and the party and the other parties working together towards, staying in power and keeping their paychecks, because I don't think they want an election right now. They've pushed us to innovate and create. And they they just keep pushing and they're relentless. It's like it makes no sense. So therefore, let's start looking. Let's criticize by creating. Let's start building.
In your writing, you said that your brother played the villain in all of this. You described the convoy as freezing man as opposed to burning man, which I think was a great way to put it. But tell me what you think about the actions of the government and invoking the Emergencies Act to deal with, as you say, this Freedom Festival, Freezing Man. Do you think that doing that so easily means that it will happen easily again, I guess, next time that there's an uprising of
I mean,
normals?
I think that it was their plan all along to enact that at some point. Like they wanted to do that because they wanted to further merge the state with the financial institutions
Mm,
and give, greater control or take greater control over free Canadians' lives and bank accounts. And like, it was so peaceful and so wonderful that they literally like had to stage photos and like just run on that and, like, operate with goggles on of just looking towards like, their blue check mark media as like, for telling them the truth of what was happening on the ground and like, just avoiding all the reality of what actually was taking place. Yeah, and so they just like, push that. And then ultimately by the end, I mean, I think, I feel like they did a great job. And like after 17 days, like, okay, like, there was definitely like, okay, this thing's got to kind of like, break up in some way. And I just wish there had been like, because we've seen a lot of like, positive momentum and positive changes all across Canada as a result of it. But it's a real shame that instead of like, engaging and asking them to like, peacefully leave, that instead we're going to like, bring in a bunch of stormtroopers and like, cause this kind of scene that really just further kind of makes people angry. And it also like painted the whole thing as like, a protest. That's where they got like their protest. Whereas this is really a movement. It was like, a freedom movement. And then, combine what we talk about the Emergencies Act coming after the crowdfunding and like, and it showed like how in cahoots they were with GoFundMe to be able to do that. And then as soon as like, okay, there's an outside innovator and Give Send Go to like, send their demon hackers after that and then docs all the participants of that basically as intimidation. And then with the mainstream media like like seeking to report, basically intimidate the people. It's full on psychological warfare that's coming from this camp, which is definitely, which it does not, I don't not believe this reflects kind of, Canadian values and respect for the individual, respect for life and liberty and value creation. It's just like it's like our way or the highway. And I think a lot of people are like, yo, your way has been like really messed up the last 2 years. And before that, it wasn't so evident, but like in the last 2 years, like you guys have gone really crazy. And like, how much fear can you be pushing on the people? Like preaching like scary, scary, scary coronavirus, stay at home, like,
Yeah.
drink and keep drinking and order all your food in line but don't connect with your other people. Let's close down the bars. Let's ravage small businesses of Canada while supporting, the Amazons, the Costco's, the Walmarts, etc. The blah blahs, shoppers, blah whatever. And then all with like, the pharmaceutical um, you know industrial complex being the massive beneficiaries of it with zero accountability or transparency into these gargantuan deals. Like, the scope of which these deals, like when they announced that, like right at the end of this whole, the end of the trucker convoy, they're like, we're going to spend $2.5 billion on rapid tests. Like, what? Like, it's
Yeah.
like you want this thing to keep going. At the same
Yeah.
time, they're talking about banning single-use plastics. And it's like, this just doesn't make any sense.
If you'd like to get access to my show as well as other great TV style shows too, like Ezra's Nightly, Ezra Levant Show, and David Menzies' Friday night show, Rebel Roundup, just go to rebelnews.com/subscribe. That's rebelnews.com/subscribe.